There is concern about the apparent spike in the spread of misinformation on social media. Recently, there was a wave of excitement over billionaire Elon Musk's plan to purchase Twitter in a bid to address his own concerns about the restriction of free speech. If restrictions are lifted, how can you pick out misinformation or fake news in your feeds? To help us unpack that, we are joined by William Bird from Media Monitoring Africa. William, very good afternoon. Thanks for speaking to us. What is a source of fake news, and how do you determine if news is fake or not?
Well, I guess there are a number of ways. Firstly, we know that with the rise of social media, we've seen a significant rise in people that are wanting to try and shift the narrative and make people confused. So I think it helps if you understand what people that are pushing mis or disinformation are doing, which is that they're either doing it for money, so they're doing it in order to make money. Sometimes you can drive traffic to a website. They might be doing it to scare people. People like to, get excited or by bullying people effectively. And other times people are wanting to shift narratives and get people to not think or focus on something. So we saw that previously, as an example, under state capture, where we saw a lot of media getting attacked for certain things because they wanted to detract from the fact that the state capture issue was being uncovered by a number of our media and our journalists. So the first step in kind of protecting yourself is to make sure that you're aware of what some of these people are doing. So when you see something and if you get a piece of content and you think, oh my goodness, this is shocking or terrific, or oh, it makes me so angry or something, if your immediate and default response is highly emotive, that's usually a good telltale sign, because credible and accurate and informative news shouldn't leave you feeling immediately anxious or so outraged that you just want to immediately start reposting whatever it is that you get, right? So that emotive response is one of the first telltale signs. And often they use an emotive response in order to gloss over the fact that there's big leaps in logic. If you think back to Donald Trump's idea of let's build a wall, right? He does that because you go and he does it and he delivers it in an emotive way. We've got to deal with these damn Mexicans coming into our country. We're going to build a wall to stop them coming in and raping our women and children, right? He uses those things around rape and all sorts of other things that elicit emotive responses to get you away from thinking, hang on a minute, a wall's not actually a real answer to this as a very complex and difficult question. So the issue is look for like big gaps in logic and content that you receive, and that'll usually be a big indicator. So if you start seeing a subject or story and it thinks, hang on, there's something that feels a bit off here, trust that. And then, of course, what you want to do is say, if I get something and it looks outrageous or it seems like a big issue on the news, go to Newzroom Afrika, see, are they reporting on this? If they're not reporting on it, check another news organization. Check at least 3 or 4 to see if they are or if they aren't. And if you can't find it on any of them, chances are it's probably something that is not necessarily true. So just pause and delay before you go around and share it. And those are some of the quick and easy things you can do.
Now, does mainstream media play a role in this entire plot that we are discussing? Because I've seen some headlines, certainly in print and certainly other social media, where you're absolutely shocked. And you read the story and what the headline implies and what actually is going on are totally different issues.
No, I think that what we have to accept now is that, in a good way, I think that the media are an essential component of our democracy. And as much as you need an independent judiciary and an independent parliament and executive, you need independent media in order to help democracy function. They play as critical a role to democracy as any of those traditional bodies. And you need not just one of them, you need a whole diversity of them, precisely because some of them will push either their own agenda, or in order to get more eyeballs on stories, they're going to use a headline that is probably misleading. So it's not to suggest that media don't contribute in some instances to promoting mis and disinformation. We know that, right? You look at the classic the 10 babies story, where that actively undermines media credibility because it's been shown to be not have any validity, and yet some media persist with retelling that story. So there's no doubt that media can and do help to promote mis and disinformation or fake news in certain instances. But
so, William, allow me to interject and come in with my final question. I quite like the idea that you've raised that issue, certainly around those 10 babies that were born or not born, whatever the case might be. But despite the fact that it appears to be a massive untruth, has it been a penalty? Are there penalties for misinformation, disinformation, or fake news?
Yeah, there's the hard potato. In general terms, you can, in an election period, you can be fined or you can actually face a severe penalty for spreading disinformation about the elections. Outside of that now, unless it's linked to something, unless it's around defamation or incitement, there's not actually a crime per se of something like mis or disinformation, except under the COVID regulations. But I think the key issue here is to think about what is it that you want to see with mis and disinformation. You want to see that it is minimized and that its impact is reduced, and then you want to see that people are held accountable. And there are certain mechanisms for that, so they can be taken off platforms. So our advice would be, if you see mis or disinformation, report it to real411.org, and then at least you know that you're doing something as an ordinary member of the public to help mitigate its impact.
William Bird from Media Monitoring, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.